Hi, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Hope your week is going well so far. And welcome to another video. So, as promised last week, I am going to talk today a little bit about starting a meditation practice. That is one of the items on my 2026 bucket list challenge. So, for anyone who is interested in starting a meditation habit this year, I've got some information for you, some tips, some ideas, some recommendations. I have been meditating for a few years now, off and on. I typically meditate for, a month or two on a more or less daily basis, and then take a few weeks off. And I kind of want to, this year, I don't need to start a meditation practice, obviously, but I'd like it to be more consistent. I want to stop taking those breaks. So in this video, I'd like to tell you kind of what I do, how I do it, and why. And I apologize in advance. This video might ramble a little bit because I haven't had a ton of time this week to get my thoughts together and figure out what I want to say. But I will do my best. So I started meditating again about a few years ago, and it's hard for me to articulate exactly why I meditate, but I'm going to try. Meditation to me is primarily a mental health practice. It's something that I try to do in the morning to put myself in the best possible frame of mind for the day. I think there's been scientific studies that show that people who meditate have, lower stress levels and just better mental health overall. I haven't really looked, I haven't done extensive research on this area. I just know my own experience. And I can't say for sure that meditation has made a huge impact in my life, to be honest. I do it more because I believe in it than because I have experienced some sort of personal transformation. But I believe in the idea of practice. I believe in meditation the way I believe in practicing, playing an instrument or practicing some sort of sport or any skill that you want to learn and become better at. So what I mean by believing in practice when it comes to meditation is, for me, meditation is about practicing the emotional states that I want to be natural for me. I want to wire my brain, if to the extent that it's possible, for more peace, for more love, for more gratitude, for more happiness and contentment. And I believe that the more you practice these emotional states, the more natural they become. The more you build those circuits within your brain, and it becomes easier for your brain to access those emotional states. I realize that this, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know if this actually is how it works, but it just seems logical to me that it would. Most of the time with our emotions, we're just being very reactive. We're reacting to whatever is going on in the moment. Something good happens, we feel happy. Something bad happens, we feel sad or angry. We've got too much on our plate, we feel overwhelmed and stressed. I at least would like to think that if we have a more proactive approach, that we can kind of guide our mental states into more productive, happier, constructive spaces, if that makes sense. Basically, I believe that if you want to be happier, rather than trying to make happy stuff happen in your life, start with your own internal weather, I guess. Practice feeling happy. If you want to love people more, practice loving them more. If you want to be calmer and feel more peace in your life. You have to practice those emotions. To me, that is like your starting point rather than trying to rearrange the circumstances of your life to be more peaceful or happier or loving or whatever. Yeah, I realize that may seem to a lot of people like putting the cart before the horse, but it's what makes sense to me. This may be oversharing on the internet, but like I went through an experience in my late teens and early 20s where I needed to be in therapy for a few years, and I was in cognitive behavioral therapy. And I just learned from that experience to be very proactive with my mental health. And I learned also that our minds are plastic. They can be changed. They can be reshaped. I don't know to what extent our personalities can be molded. I think those are generally kind of hardwired. But I do think that there are things you can do. You know, if you are a naturally pessimistic person, I don't know if you can train yourself to become an optimist, but you can move the needle at least a little bit, in my opinion. And certainly I believe that when you are going through a rough time, that there are practices like meditation that can make a big difference in your daily experience. Yeah, so for me, it is primarily a mental health thing. I know that for many people, there's also a spiritual component to meditation, and there is for me too. I am a spiritual but not religious person, and for me, meditation is a way for me to connect with whatever you want to call it, you know, my higher self, or the collective consciousness, or God, or source energy. It is a way of kind of stripping away the clutter of my mind so that I can be present with, you know, that pure awareness that underlies all the thinking and doing and planning and worrying. I believe that, you know, you can derive great benefit from meditation no matter what your personal beliefs are. For me, it is about mental health. It's about putting myself into a positive mental state before I start the rest of my day. It's about connecting with my broader intentions rather than just like the day's to-do list. And I meditate also because it feels good. I wouldn't say that I've had really intense spiritual experiences through meditation, but I can say that I have felt tremendous peace. I've felt tremendous love, not just for, you know, the things that are easy to love in my life, like my husband and my cat and so on, but love for all of humanity, love for all this world. Yeah, intense love and peace. I felt both of those through meditation. It doesn't happen every time. I'll be honest, many times when I meditate, I spend the whole time with my mind just wandering. And that's a little disappointing and frustrating, but I keep showing up the next day, hoping for, you know, to find that peace or that sense of love. And sometimes I do, and that's enough to keep me coming back. So how I do it, I meditate 5 days a week. I have tried to meditate 7 days a week. It just doesn't work for me. The 2 days that I don't meditate are the days that I go into the office. I work from home 3 days a week, go to the office 2 days a week. Those 2 days that I go into the office, I have to get up quite a bit earlier in order to allow for my commute and for more getting ready time. So I just can't get up early enough to meditate also. I've done it before, but then the problem that arises is I tend to start falling asleep while meditating. You know, if I get up at like 5:30 to meditate, like I'm just going to doze off. I meditate 5 days a week on the weekends and on my work from home days. And I've accepted that that is the schedule that works for me. I don't think you have to do something 7 days a week in order for it to be a valid practice and a valid habit. I have pretty much the same schedule when it comes to working out. Again, just because of time. I live in DC and we have serious traffic, and I drive to and from work. So, it eats up a lot of time. Those office days, I don't really have time for the self-care stuff. So I do it on all of the other days of the week. Anyway, what I do, this also is not perfectly consistent. I don't think that you have to meditate the same way every day. In fact, I think switching it up a little bit keeps the practice fresh. What matters is just sitting down and showing up for it. But the things that I do, I know some people meditate in silence, and that's awesome if you can do that. But for me, I need to listen to something. I find that listening to something really helps me to focus. So I have kind of two things that I do. One is I use an app called A Soft Murmur that has pleasant background sounds, and you can pick and choose from a few different ones. My personal favorites to meditate to are the rain sound and the waves. They also have thunderstorm, but to me that gets a little too interesting. Whatever you listen to while meditating, it should be pretty monotonous and steady, because what you're looking for is kind of steadiness of focus. You can pay, when you download the app, you can pay for more sounds, but I just use the free version. And that works for me, again, because like I said, the sounds that I like are the rain and the ocean waves. They've also got wind, and I have the same issue with that as I do with the thunderstorm. It's just too much variation. So I like that app. You can set a timer. I usually set it for 15 or 20 minutes, just depending on how much time I have. I just sit on my bed, close my eyes, and listen and try to focus as steadily as I can on whatever that sound is. And as other thoughts drift into my consciousness, as they inevitably do, whenever I notice that that's happened, I try to bring my focus back to that sound. The folks who meditate in silence typically are focusing on their breath. So that's another thing that you can do, is focus on your breathing. But for me, sound is a little bit more effective, I think. I also enjoy guided meditations. They really help me to focus. So that's another thing that I will sometimes do, is listen to a guided meditation. I have a handful of videos that I really like, and I will link some of those in the description so that you can check them out. Tara Brach is a great meditation teacher, and she has a channel on YouTube that you can check out, and she does a lot of lovely guided meditations that are about 15 minutes long. So she's a great place to start. I also like Thich Nhat Hanh. He was a Buddhist monk who was a wonderful meditation teacher. On Valentine's Day, for example, I did his meditation for love, which I will link up there because it was so lovely. And it was basically a meditation practice called metta that is common in Buddhist traditions. What you do is you start by sending love to yourself, and then gradually you extend it to others. So first you send love to another person in your life whom it's easy for you to feel love towards. And then gradually you extend that love to all beings. And it was just a wonderful meditation to do on Valentine's Day in particular. So I will definitely share that one with you. When I do it, as you've probably noticed, I do it in the morning. I think meditating in the evening is fine, but I find that my mind is a little more jumpy in the evening because so much has happened during the day that I've inevitably got some storylines spinning. Whereas in the morning, my mind is a little bit clearer, more of a blank canvas. So it's just a little bit easier for me to quiet down all the chatter. My typical routine is to get up and feed the cat, make my coffee, have breakfast, and then usually I've got about 20 minutes between finishing my coffee and needing to start my workday. So those 20 minutes are when I meditate. And that works for me. Having just had coffee, I am able to stay awake. That's one of the reasons that I can't do it on my go to the office days, because on my go to the office days, I don't have time to drink coffee at home. I make my coffee in a thermos and take it with me and drink it in the car on the way to work. So if I try to meditate without having had my coffee, that's why I fall asleep, especially because I'm getting up, about 45 minutes earlier than normal in order to get myself to the office on time. So yeah, that's my routine. Meditate between breakfast and whatever else I'm going to do that day, usually logging on to start my work day. Personally, I find meditation to be a really worthwhile experience, but like I said, it's hard for me to articulate exactly why. I can't tell you that it's made a huge difference in my life. I don't really believe in meditating in order to be a better person or be a more spiritual person. I don't honestly know exactly why I'm drawn to it. I guess a lot of people that I admire and respect meditate, and so I kind of do it because they find it valuable, so I believe that there's something to it. And also, like I said, I have had, occasional experiences of really wonderful emotional states through meditation. And they have been enough to convince me that something good is going on in my mind when I meditate. But I think the essence of the practice for me is basically practicing being my best self, the version of myself that I really want to be, is calm, clear-minded, emotionally stable, generally feeling love towards others. All of these things that you practice through meditation, or at least that you can practice through meditation. I want to be grounded in the present moment and not constantly worrying or thinking about the past. I want to be, emotionally stable and calm and at peace. I want to be projecting love through my words and my actions, and my thoughts. I want to be open to experiences. Meditation is just a way of basically for 20 minutes just focusing on trying to be, that best version of myself in my own mind. I don't know if it translates to the rest of my life. I like to think that it does, at least in some small way. But I don't really have any evidence for that. It's mostly wishful thinking on my part. So if this doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement for meditation, I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. I 100% will continue to do it. And like I said, I really want to be consistent about it this year. It's a very personal thing. You'll get out of it, I think, what you want to. If you are wanting to start a meditation practice, my best tips are just to kind of experiment and find what works for you in terms of timing, in terms of what style of meditation you prefer. And like I said, you don't have to do the same thing every day. You don't have to meditate every day. You don't have to be perfect at it. Don't get mad at yourself if your mind wanders the entire session, because that is normal. And, don't think you're doing it wrong if you don't experience any transcendent spiritual enlightenment style experiences. Most people don't. So it's a practice. It's not like a one and done type thing. It's something that you do for your own reasons. Personally, the real benefit of it is that no matter what happens during the day, I know that I started things off on the right foot. I started them off deliberately, intentionally, with awareness and, a conscious decision to do something for myself to be my best self. Sometimes I meditate and an hour later I'm furious about something or other. It doesn't magically make your problems go away. Don't expect any kind of earth-shattering spiritual experiences, but I do think it's worthwhile. I do enjoy it. Like I said, some days I don't get a lot out of it, but a lot of times I emerge from it feeling wonderfully calm and peaceful and, in a very positive mental space to start the day. And that's really what I'm after. So this has been a lot of rambling. Again, I'm sorry for that. But if you want to start a meditation practice, I encourage you to do so. And I wish you good luck with it. I will be right there with you meditating, not every day, but 5 days a week. Yeah, I would love to hear about your experiences. If you are a meditator, drop me a comment and let me know, if you have any tips or recommendations or, just what your experience has been with meditation, why you do it, how you do it. I'm sure any viewers watching would also be interested to hear about your experiences as a meditator. That being said, I'm going to wrap up the video here. I'm not exactly sure what I will be talking about next week, probably more flying trapeze. If you've been with me so far this year, you know that I went to a flying trapeze class about a month ago, and I am going to another one this weekend, so chances are that I will be featuring that in my next video. If you don't know what the heck I was talking about at the start of the video with the 2026 bucket list challenge, check out the details about that down below in the description. Plenty of time for anyone who wants to join. Meditating is one item on the list, but there's a lot of other stuff, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of educational stuff, a lot of travel ideas, just things to make your 2026 exciting and adventurous and memorable. So check that out if it's of interest. And I hope you have a fantastic week. I will definitely see you next Tuesday. Again, not sure what I'll be talking about, but I will be here. And I wish you a great week until then. Hope that the weather is starting to warm up where you are. It is getting warmer here, slowly but surely. Our snow is finally melting. So take care and have a good week. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.